Hi, my name is Brian Warner. I've been in the investment business for 29 years, and I've spent most of that time researching small and underfollowed companies. My first direct exposure to the outside investor relations business was as a money manager. I would often get phone calls from IR people that were representing companies, and they were looking to create meetings and introduce me to companies. And to see if I had any interest, I would usually ask them a question or two. Might be something related to the company's balance sheet or cash flow statement. And all too often, I'd be met with a long pause, which I took to mean that the person on the other end of the phone didn't know the answer to my questions, and they would often say, "Can I get back to you?" And I would say, "Sure," but it was usually enough of a turnoff for me to sever the relationship and conclude that it really wasn't worth my time and effort. So why am I now in the investor relations business? Well, when Howard approached me about joining Value Advisory, I did a little bit of due diligence on the business, and what I found, as I suspected, was an industry that had typically overpromised and underdelivered. The promise was always, we'll create a great, compelling presentation for investors, and we would fill up rooms with people that could listen to and hear your story. The reality was the presentations were typically regurgitations of management's messages, and while they often filled up rooms, most of the people were low man on the totem pole types at companies or institutions, and some were interns. In some cases, we even found that the investor relations firms would send their own employees to make the room look more full. So in reality, what the managements were met with was a room full of people that were typically more interested in a free lunch than they were interested in the companies. Also, as an investor, I had listened to hundreds and hundreds of these presentations, and I had very often helped management to outline and share their messages with investors, which in many cases I had found the presentations were sloppy and disjointed, and they would fail to either highlight important facts about the company's fundamentals, or they would fail to explain in a coherent manner why this was a compelling investment case. So I decided, without being too cavalier, that I could probably do this about as well as anyone, considering I had been on the receiving end of these presentations for about 30 years as a critic and a skeptic, and I had helped managements put them together. I also knew I was a very solid analyst, and I could get many people on the phone because I had 3 decades worth of contacts, and I figured that with this vast network of contacts, I could really make a difference for managements as an investor relation contact. My contacts were legitimately serious institutional investors and hedge fund managers that I knew were legitimately impactful and could really make a difference to these companies. These are companies with little or no analyst following. They receive very few calls from investors, and they often receive very few questions on their quarterly conference calls, and they're just completely lacking a voice in the market. While many of them are great stories, it's kind of ironic because this was always an attraction to me as an investor. So to answer the question of why I'm in the IR business now, I saw a huge need that I saw really wasn't being filled, and I felt I could meet it about as well as anyone, doing what I had always done and what I love doing. So I love putting together presentations, and I love sharing ideas. And in fact, as a long-term employee of mine used to say, when I was recommending a holding in my hedge fund, if you don't like the way Brian tells it, you're just not going to like it.